Well, hello and welcome. My name is Mark Epner. I'm a Chicago-based pilot with over half of my 2,000 plus hours in a Cirrus SR-22. Currently, I fly this 2011 normally aspirated G3, but also fly other aircraft when the opportunity presents itself. I love flying every bit as much as you do and look for ways to share that common bond through multiple paths, including this channel, as well as Simple Flight Radio, which you can find at simpleflight.net. My goal for the channel is to share my passion for aviation with others that share that same sentiment and do so with an eye towards proficiency, safety, and fun. Well, hello and welcome. In our last episode, we talked about the importance of expanding your view of situational awareness, define it to be more than you do today, and to include things like the airspace around you, airports, terrain, obstacles, other airplanes, and every radio communication you can hear. And you use all of those things to paint a picture that's very dynamic of all the factors in your current and very important future airspace and project that onto a map in your head of what the future will look like. I called it the next two things after Captain from SkyWest Airlines said to me, what are the two most important things a pilot thinks about? And the answer is the next two things, staying ahead of the airplane. So I've included a link below for that first episode. If you didn't watch it, please take the time now, watch it, because I think it's really going to help to set the tone for you and really start you down that path to be a more situationally aware pilot. So today I want to kind of continue down in that same vein and take our newfound awareness, or at least how we define situational awareness, to know what is going to happen next. And if it doesn't, to have a plan in place to mitigate any risk. Further, if something unexpected or unusual happens, I want us to train ourselves to raise our alert status. You sometimes hear me say, get my spidey sense going, but it's essentially taking your alert status and moving it to the next higher level. So I think the best way to explain what I'm trying to say is, like in the last episode, go through a couple of real-world scenarios to demonstrate the point. This first one, I was acting as a safety pilot for a friend who owns an SR-22, and we were heading over to Rockford, Illinois, Romeo Foxtrot Delta, to shoot the RNAV GPS 19 approach. We started from our home airport of Chicago Executive, formerly called Palwaukee, and it's Papa Whiskey Kilo, and that's to the east. So we're heading west, and I want you to join the flight as we approach Rockford. Take a listen.
903 Golf Delta, descend and maintain 2,500.
Descend and maintain 2,500, 93 Golf Delta.
903 Golf Delta, turn left heading 270. Here's 903 Golf Delta, 4 miles from the final approach fix, turn left heading 160, maintain at or above 2,500 till established on the final approach course, cleared RNAV, runway 19 approach.
Left 160, maintain 2,500, cleared for the RNAV 19 approach, 93 Golf Delta.
So there wasn't much ATC, but did you have your spidey sense go off? Did something not make sense? You can tell from my questions that there should have been. If you're an IFR-rated pilot, something should have seemed amiss. Think about it. What did the controller say? The controller told the pilot to turn to 160 to intercept the final approach course. The pilot replied he was going to do that. But if you think about it, a turn to 160 will never intercept the final approach course for runway 19. Thankfully, the next transmission from the controller was this.
Sirius 3 Golf Delta, my mistake, turn left heading 220.
220, 3 Golf Delta.
The controller made a mistake. So there's two questions that come out of this. One, why did the pilot in command just repeat the ATC instruction, which was a bad instruction? 160 would never work for this. And question number two, if the controller hadn't come back acknowledging his mistake, at what point would this PIC have keyed the mic and then gone back and say, hey, I think you made a mistake? So question number one, why did the pilot do it? And that's what pilots are taught to do in an IFR situation. We're given instruction, we repeat it to show we heard what you said. But when we repeat something that's not right, it demonstrates our ability to hear but not to understand. So there was no understanding of what 160 would do in this case. So the way I avoid this, and it happens all the time, I know what the controller is going to say before he says it. And that's not just on clearances. I know when I'm going to Kansas City, Rockford's going to have me on a 270 heading. And then about 5 miles after I'm taken over to Rockford Approach, maybe 10 miles, I'll get cleared to your destination. And if I don't, I'll question it because they've then forgotten about me. And then I know before too long, I'm going to get contact Chicago Center 12375. And I know it because I've done it several times. But even on the first time, you get a sense of where airspace is, and you know that at some point you're going to get direct destination, especially as you get further away from the busy airspace. So now to bring our VFR pilots into the conversation, here's a little piece of information for you. When we are on a vector to final approach, the last vector that ATC will give you as they clear you for the approach will be to intercept that final approach course at a 30-degree angle. So in this case, we're going to runway 19, which means the controller will either give you 160 if you're approaching from the west to the east, or 220 if you're on a westerly heading. So as soon as we were on the 270 heading, I knew that the next instruction we got would be a clearance, a left turn, to 220. So as soon as I heard the clearance and a left turn to 160, the alarm started going off in my head because I knew what he was going to say before he said it. And when he said it wrong, I obviously knew that at that very moment. By the way, the answer to the second question, if he had not come back, I would have either told PIC, again, remember I'm safety pilot, or I would have keyed the mic. Now, if he said, hey, traffic, we're going to turn you 160 to move you away or to reset, then that would have been appropriate. But we did get a clearance on that, so I knew it was wrong. So let's go on to the next example. In this flight, I'm heading to Papa Whiskey Kilo, Chicago Executive from the west. I'm flying VFR, and I checked in with the tower about 17 miles to the west and was told by the controller to plan a straight in for 16. Well, that instruction made no sense to me as I was west of the airport, heading 090. How could I come straight in for 16? And then the other relevant data point was that this was my home airport. I'm really familiar with most of the controller's voices, yet I didn't recognize this controller's voice. Now, I know we have a training tower, so there's new voices all the time, but that connected the dots for me, and it really made me raise my alert level because this was an evolving situation, and I heard one statement from a voice I didn't know that just didn't make sense. Many of you may be wondering, why wouldn't I clarify with the tower if there was a confusing request of me? And that's fair. But one of the things that I think we all agree on, that the vast majority of the time, ATC is always on top of their game, and it's important that we as pilots do our part in protecting that open and valuable frequency time. So I can't question them on everything. It's the old trust but verify. So I'm, at this point, choosing to trust them because this is nowhere close to being an emergency, and I'm ahead of the situation. There'll be things I can do as I get closer, but right now, it's just how I'm going to get to the runway doesn't quite make sense. And then the controller talked to a 172 on the east side of the airport and basically told them to plan for an extended left base for 16. So the 172 was closer to the airport than me, but a 172 is also a lot slower than the SR-22. So my alert level went up yet again. Sure enough, as we both neared the final approach course, we were coming nose to nose. ATC cleared the 172 to land and asked me to follow the Cessna number 2 for landing. Well, there was no way this could work. There just wasn't enough separation. As there was no one else on the downwind, I just basically told ATC, hey, it's not going to work. I'm too close. Instead, I turned left, which was essentially turning away from the airport and really being on nothing more than an extended right downwind. And the controller responded with a simple thank you. So it was understanding that I could turn left without creating more of a situation because of incoming traffic or other people that may be on the same right downwind, because I was thinking about it over that next 15 miles as I approached the airport. So in both of the cases that we talked about today, knowing what ATC should be saying before they say it allows us as pilots to know immediately when something doesn't make sense, and then allows us to prepare for the corrective action. It's one of those things that planned and proactive decisions are always better than impulsive and reactive decisions. Of course, this kind of situational awareness just doesn't apply to ATC communications. If we as pilots always know the next two things that are going to happen, we put ourselves in a position to anticipate problems or at the very least catch them as they happen. So, for example, if you're flying an approach with the autopilot and the plane doesn't begin a descent after intercepting the glide slope, as PIC, you should catch that immediately. Having the situational awareness to know if you were hand flying the approach, you would have started down, and acknowledging that the autopilot didn't is cause for immediate action. Pilots that abdicate the flying responsibility right to the autopilot rather than delegating it are more likely to miss, in this case, that glide slope intercept. We are always PIC, so once again it comes back to that next two things. Situational awareness is a skill that happens over time, but I'm convinced that we can accelerate our learning by not abdicating our growth to time, but rather making it an active part of our daily aviation life. Enjoy the journey. It should be fun. And until next time, blue skies and tailwinds.